Hello, everyone, and welcome back to episode 3 of Grumpy Jews Who Read. And with us today is me. I'm Jonathan, and with me is Marty. Marty, say hi.
Hi.
Whom we are going to refer to either as Mom or Safta on the podcast today, because with us also are Sadie. Sadie, say hi.
Hello.
Really living up to the Grumpy Jew title there.
I'm the one who came up with it.
Sadie is the one who came up with it. So we actually get to talk about people with them here as opposed to just mentioning them. And Jude is home from college.
Hello.
So we have Safta, Safta's son, and two of Safta's grandchildren.
3 generations.
3 generations of grumpy Jews who read. So it's true. So our topic today is going to start with one of the things that makes us both grumpy and happy, which is Thanksgiving. So Safta said that this is not a question that Safta has ever heard. But Sadie, how often have people come up to you and said, "Wait, you're Jewish? Do you celebrate Thanksgiving?"
Every year, and it's normally the same people. Why are you asking me this again? I told you last year.
So it turns out that outside of New York City, where Thanksgiving is just done by everybody, after all, there's a huge parade in New York City. So anybody not celebrating Thanksgiving is like, worse than the Grinch. In the rest of the world, people don't understand a lot about Jews. And one of the things they don't understand is why Jews celebrate American holidays. What was your answer to this, Sadie?
We're American. We live in America.
American
So
Jew.
America. If we were Israeli Jews, then it would be a different story. We'd live in Israel. Then we wouldn't celebrate Thanksgiving. But considering we're Americans and it's a national holiday, it's not religious in any sense, it's technically our holiday too. And
Not technically, it is.
It is
Yeah,
our
it is.
holiday too. And on top of that, there are some interesting historical overlays. American Jews in general, the number one holiday American Jews celebrate is Passover. More Jews celebrate Passover even than Hanukkah. And the corresponding fall mirror to Passover in the Jewish calendar is a holiday called Sukkot, which almost no American Jews celebrate. However, Thanksgiving feels a lot like Sukkot.
A holiday about food.
It is a holiday about food, and Jews do like food stuff.
Food with family in particular.
And food with family. And not only that, Thanksgiving feels like a Jewish holiday because it's got a structure. Yes. Because like Passover, it has traditional foods that people feel like ought to be there, and it almost has a liturgy. That is,
It also has an order, like a Seder. It has an order.
absolutely.
Never eat the turkey before you've eaten something before the turkey.
We should have no problem conveying to everybody that, in fact, Thanksgiving is a well-celebrated Jewish American holiday. So
Okay.
that being the case, speaking of Thanksgiving, Safta, are you grumpy about New York football?
Yeah, it's been a bad week. I thought we were going to talk about. I am just really in a bad mood between our 3 New York teams. I was really let down.
It's something of a
I'm
letdown.
hopeful that maybe it'll get better on Sunday, but I'm not so sure.
Yeah, it would be nice to see the Giants not lose another game in the fourth quarter. That would be
Nice to
awesome.
see the Bills win.
And it would be really nice to see the Bills win and not
Nice
be.
to have a team that we could work with. Oh, I don't start. I don't even want to think about it.
And, let's hit on Sadie's big grumpiness right now. She's throwing her head back
Well,
after
Sadie,
an eye roll when I
thank you
mentioned
for
it.
grumpy because we're talking
Several
about football,
eye
so
rolls.
she's doing it.
Don't get the number wrong.
I wasn't grumpy of the Giants because they had some glimmers of hope.
Yes, well, it's almost more heartbreaking when they have glimmers of hope.
But maybe it's hopeful for next year. I don't have any hope for the Jets and the Giants this year, but I do have hopes for the Bills if they win every game that they have left. And
And
need the Eagles and we need the Patriots to lose a little bit, but that's not happening.
it doesn't seem to be happening. But in any event, we're going to stop making Sadie grumpy by talking about football. So Safta very highly recommended a book to me that I, in fact, read. The big cliffhanger from our last episode was whether or not I would, in fact, finish listening to and or reading The Known World by Edward P. Jones in time for this podcast. And in fact, I did. So,
Shocking. You finished a book in time for a podcast. Things I never expected to happen.
Softa, you had mentioned that one of the aspects of grumpiness of Jews is not so much that we're grumpy, that we're sarcastic, and it's good to know that you're, 2 generations on, your
I know.
grandchildren fulfill
know.
that.
I know.
Just a little bit.
We love her anyway.
Hardly.
But I want to ask you, why did you recommend The Known World so much to me?
Okay. I think I will give you my first caveat on books, fiction or nonfiction, but it's really important in fiction, and that is good writing. And it can be a great story, great characters. If the writing is weak, if the vocabulary is silly, I just can't get into the book. And so this is a book that has good writing, and good writing leads to the things that make a good book, like good characters, developed characters you can relate to, either like or dislike.
I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think one of the reasons you recommended this book is because it has a very interesting premise. The premise of The Known World is it follows an extended family of African Americans in the 1840s who are slave owners in Virginia. So what is it to be a Black person owning a slave in Virginia in the 1840s? And one of the things it does in a very interesting way is it explores what it means to really all be extended family in this very weird setup.
Part of my favorite part of a good book is I have to learn something. And what you just said, I did not know.
So you didn't know beforehand that there were any African Americans who owned African Americans as slaves?
But not to the extent where they were really landowners and had mini plantations and had maybe several slaves.
So it's a very interesting premise. And Edward P. Jones got on this when he heard about this. It turns out, I listened to the interview with him afterwards. One of the things that got him into this was he had heard a story of a Jewish person who had signed up for the Nazi Party.
I'm not quite sure. I think that it's a quid pro quo, and I'm not really sure I know about that. And I'd like to know where he heard that.
Well, I mean, obviously, he wouldn't have reported it as a real story if he didn't hear it. So I will do the due diligence and find the research on that. But the idea that he was instigated in order to Soft is waving The Known World, which also won the Pulitzer Prize. So these are important aspects. It should be well written, and it's definitely well written. He has an amazing ear for dialogue. Not the same level of a Mark Twain and Huck Finn, but certainly a sense of having different people talk in very different ways based on their backgrounds. And that is very helpful. And the well-written nature of the book. Also, as I said, the premise is interesting. And on top of all of that, as historical fiction, it's believable, which
100%.
is
100%.
which is really important because, of course, historical fiction can fail if we don't actually buy it.
Historical fiction has been ruined for me.
Why has historical fiction been ruined for you?
Because they make us read it so much in school and they never give us good historical fiction, so it's always poorly written and not interesting at all, and it's just genuinely bad, and we have to read it for school, and they're like, this is peak level historical
Sadie,
fiction.
that is just because in order for them to actually teach books, they have to read books that everybody is able to read. And that means that they tend to suck because they're years below your interest level.
So
we're going to talk about historical fiction. Let me just, Sadie, I read a lot of historical fiction. Your father and mother actually introduced me to some really famous ones, which we'll have for another podcast. But
that's by the way, the podcast to tease it, everyone. When we talk Dorothy Dunnett and Diana Gabaldon, we will be inviting Ginny to join us for that podcast.
But Philippa Gregory writes historical fiction. She's a professor. She's written I'm reading the 16th book, I believe, about the Plantagenets and the Tudors. And very few people will compete with my knowledge of Tudor England. I
because
did
because you've spent so much time in
reading
Philippa
people,
Gregory.
and I think, and she has a bibliography at the back of each book that's 5-6 pages with all the research that she's done that goes into this. It's
So
historical because she may be making up conversations or events or something like that. But
so
anyway,
Sata, have you seen the musical Six?
of course.
So this is historical fiction, Sadie.
Yeah, but it's not a book.
But they all existed, and they all existed in the order in which the musical presents them, and their characteristics are. Anyway, it's
Sadie is very interested in seeing Six.
okay. I want to get to the kids' recommendations.
You talked about what makes a book something that you would recommend. So I asked the kids to come up with what are the qualifications in a book that they would recommend. Sadie's initial facetious response was, it shouldn't be crap. So I asked
Not
Sadie.
helpful. Not helpful.
I think it's helpful.
So I asked them both to come up with things that would make them want to recommend a book.
So I think for me, it's, again, wholly dependent on the person I'm recommending a book to, because if it's somebody who's not going to be interested in historical fiction, Sadie, then I'm not going to recommend a good historical fiction book because there will be no appreciation for it, apparently. But more than that, it's like, do these people read books because they like fun books? Do they read them because they like really good writing, or all of the above? But I think more than that, I tend to look for, is it a fun, well-written book, to borrow Safta's tenet there, but also, like, does it mean something to me, and do I think it'll mean something to the person I'm recommending it to?
So, what's your recommendation?
Well, well, we'll get to recommendations in a minute because we're going to do holiday recommendations for and why we're not necessarily recommending new books, which is the other question for our holiday recommendations. Sadie, is there anything you'd like to add about books that you recommend? Like, you've bought books as gifts for friends before, so what goes into you recommending a book?
So I don't know if everybody does this, but I talk a lot about my interests, and in doing so, everybody around me has learned to talk a lot about their interests to drown me out. So, I know a lot about what people like to read around me, and like, I have a friend, Rose.
I know Rose.
She doesn't like getting books for her birthday because everybody gives her books, and they don't ask her what she wants to read. I think that's kind of stupid because it's just ruining the concept of books.
So knowing that somebody is an avid reader is not enough to recommend to get a book for them. You actually have to know what they like.
Yeah, you need to get them to yap about it a lot to you, so you know everything about their interests.
And it is an interesting thing in today's times, completely different, about things to do and not do during Thanksgiving. And there were 2 pages, and one of the things is what you should bring your host or hostess. And they make it very clear that if your host or hostess is a wine expert, do not bring them wine.
It's the same type of thing when trying to get gifts for mom,
idea.
where I don't want to give mom art supplies because there's no way I will know what art supplies mom needs.
And somebody
mom what art supplies she needs.
Somebody who I'm not going to mention who in my life once sent me a book that she really loved. I didn't ask for it. We never had a discussion about it. And I promptly gave the book to the library. I didn't want it. And I was quite insulted because if you know that I read, and she did, she made the choice for me. So Sadie is spot on. When people ask me for lists, I curate them. I go through my little notebook and I go through it and I say, this will be good for that person, but not that. So that is what you have to keep in mind.
Many of you do know that I'm a rabbi. It's like getting Judaica for rabbis.
Don't do it.
I thought you already had all that. Like every single thing there would be.
Right. So generally speaking, what is the phrase? Shoes for the cobbler's kids or something like that.
Right.
Yes. So when choosing gifts, choose wisely. In other words, we're going to recommend some books, and we love these books. The books that we're going to talk about, we
Right.
absolutely love. Do not give these books just to anybody. The New York Times Book Review did a great job on this in their 100 recommended books of the year because at the bottom they said fans of such and such a book will like
Right.
this.
You
And
know,
what I really
I'd
loved
like
about the
to
fans of it was that some of those books were 15 and 20 years old. So it wasn't just for, if you liked a book from 15, 20 years ago, you would like this book. Maybe, maybe. The other part of that is I love so many authors, but not everything that those authors write would I recommend.
I picked out 5 of your most
Yeah,
recommended
they're
top
very important.
recommendations. But these are 5 books that you have recommended more than any other in the spreadsheet of books that I've compiled of your recommendations. So of these 5, I'd like you to talk about one that you really love. The
Okay.
5 are Linda Rutledge's West with Giraffes, The Anatomy Lesson by Anne Siegel, The Island of Sea Women by Lisa C., My Father's House by Joseph O'Connor, and Remarkably Bright Creatures by S. Van Belt.
It's tough because I also like a couple of others, but I think I would have to go with a universal, a book that I will give to almost anybody. And it's easy to read. It's a joy to read. It's it's based on truth. And if somebody is suffering or in pain, this will be a book that will make that person move away from the pain for a while. And it is The West with Giraffes. I love that book. Very quickly, it's based on the San Diego Zoo's truthful need and want to have giraffes in the zoo during the Depression in the 30s. They contracted to get 2 beautiful animals from Africa, and they sent a man who worked for the zoo in a truck with attached to the truck, a trailer was a very tall trailer, and the top of that trailer was cut out. And he picked up the giraffes that landed in New York Harbor, got them into the trailer, and drove them across Depression America and the Dust Bowl in the 30s from New York to San Diego.
Wow.
It's a fabulous story.
And if you want to easy click to purchase this book for the holiday season, go to jewish-and.com and click on Grumpy Jews Who Read.
They should look at all the other
Jewish-,
books. They should look at all the other books.
right, so jewish-and.com, and there is a Grumpy Jews Who Read link there. And we have all these books on there. Okay.
And I want to add one current book that everybody should look at if they love art, but only if they love art, is Mona's Eyes.
Really, you haven't talked about that
I
before.
know, I love that. Okay.
Yeah, we love Mona's Eyes. Maybe we'll have a family read of it for over winter break.
It's been
Okay.
fun.
Okay. So
What else is-
Jude, why did you recommend the books that you recommended, which starts with the Chris Paolini book?
Yeah, so the first book I recommended was Chris Paolini's To Sleep in a Sea of Stars, which is just a really fantastic sci-fi book, and it kind of straddles the line of what is science and what is magic and how that all relates to our understanding. It also does a really good job addressing what is other to us, which is something I think we really need right now, because there's so much sense of other just within our group of people, where we look at somebody and we'll say, oh, I don't see somebody in my group, I see somebody outside of that. And being able to relate to people that are fundamentally different than us is such an important skill.
So do you think that somebody who's not into sci-fi or fantasy would still like this book?
Well, that's kind of the
What's
hard
out
question
there?
here, because one of the things I love so much about it is it takes a really interesting look at what it means to move through the stars, what it means to be a human going out and beyond and encountering alien things. But it also takes a really interesting look at the potential science behind it. So much so that one of the parts I love most is the appendices kind of includes mock scientific papers about it. So if you're not interested in sci-fi, I don't recommend this because you
That's
will
fine. It's
have a
one
hard time with it.
So that's audience specific. We're going to go out of sci-fi to Sadie's recommendation. Sadie wanted to recommend Ender's Game, which Jude also recommended.
I am still mad at you for that.
Blame Dad. He recommended the book I would have recommended instead.
You still have so many other books, and you chose one of my favorites.
So
I
so,
point
so-
out-
no, stop. So I'm not going to let you talk about Ender's Game because we already talked about a sci-fi book. So you need to talk a little bit about PAX and why you're recommending PAX, which, by the way, is a book that Safta sent Jude and that you got from Jude's bookshelf. So it's a wonderful connection between all three of you.
because much like Ender's Game, it's a book I recommended you.
I didn't know where it came from, to be fair. I just thought it had popped up on my bookshelf one day and
Let's hear
existed
about
like that. I really liked it because it delved into the whole difference between, like, having an animal that you've domesticated and then when that animal is let out, because it's not really meant to be domesticated, it kind of is allowed to do its own thing, and how even though the journey to get back the animal was, like, not really worth it in the end, it was also worth it in a way that, like, what you did along the way, because the main character, Peter, finds, like, a lot of things along the way. He injures himself, and, like, he meets this woman who does a lot of woodworking, and it's just, like, I don't know, I really liked the story.
So who would you recommend this for? Who are the people that you think would enjoy this?
Probably people who like animals,
Okay.
because if you don't like animals, then you're not going to like PAX, because
Okay.
a good portion of it is told from the fox's perspective.
There we go. So, animal haters, not PAX, but
Well,
Okay.
animal haters we don't even want to give good books to anyway.
well, it's true. So, and I also put together a small list of books that I recommend, and the book that is neither sci-fi, which is The Death of the Author by Nnedi Okorafor, which is absolutely one of the most creative books I've read in years. It's very interesting. The book that Jude wanted to recommend is called The Rook by Daniel O'Malley. And for anybody who ever enjoyed Harry Potter or James Bond, it is sort of a Secret Service Great Britain with a grown-up Harry Potter world all combined. It's a ton of fun, but I'm not going to talk about that one either. Instead, I'm going to talk about what I usually recommend, which is nonfiction. I'm getting the stink eye from my child. And this is Musa Al-Gharbi's We Have Never Been Woke, The Cultural Contradictions of the New Elite. And I read it a little while ago, and I still think it's an incredibly relevant book because one of the things we are caught in is a spiral of not understanding how everybody doesn't share our interests and how pursuing our personal interests doesn't necessarily help everyone else. And I think this is a huge problem for the well-intentioned elite, like the Democratic Party, who have this idea that they've come up with a good idea that will solve everybody's problems, but it's their idea, not everyone's idea, and it mostly helps them. And this is really a challenge in our society today. And I think Musa Al-Gharbi does a great job looking at it, evaluating it, and maybe giving us some ideas about what next as well.
And
Yes.
I think that's pretty topical because I think that it's pretty topical not just to our society, but to this conversation, because what are books if not ideas? And you really don't want to give someone a book that changed your life if they're going to hate it.
Well,
that's what wokeness can be.
I
and
mean, I've recommended people books and they've ended up liking them more than me.
how does that feel?
Honestly, it was really strange because it was like in second grade. So it was a while ago when I was reading the Warriors books.
Speaking of animal perspectives,
Yeah, she read all 6 of the series that I had given her, and then the other books, I'm sure she's read the entirety of it by now.
My God,
She
all
was obsessed with
50s.
it.
You know, the books that you and I talked about, and we'll talk about again, the Dorothy Dunnett books and the Gabaldon books, I think might have the potential for that, where you hand them off to somebody and you create an Outlander
You know,
fanatic.
I would carry on about them, and then people just didn't stick with it.
Ah.
That sort of irritated me. I mean, they would read one, or but
I mean, it's very
anyway,
irritating.
I would like to conclude, though, with a thought, and it's a thought on this quote from City of Miracles by Robert Jackson Bennett, which is what we mentioned to you, Safta, and it's very Jewish. And Robert Jackson Bennett is not Jewish, and City of Miracles is a fantasy book, fantasy sci-fi, weird, totally different world book, and
I really like City of Miracles.
It is really good.
and both the kids really loved it. I have listened to this book with both of the kids in the car,
really.
and
It took so long for us to finish the entire series while listening
and
to
it's the final book in a trilogy. But the quote that really,
Is it in your house?
yes, it is.
You want to bring it to me?
We can bring it to you, but Sadie, stop. So
For those who can't see it, which is everybody but Safta, Sadie just grabbed it and was waving it in front of the camera obnoxiously.
but the quote that
it
is
deserved to be waved in
is
obnoxiously.
salient is this idea of we are all of us, but the sum of our moments are deeds. And Sadie and I mentioned it to Safta when we were talking about remembering people and the Jewish habit of how we remember people who are gone, and this idea that what's really important about remembering people is remembering what we've done with one another and the impact we've had on each other, and this idea that we are all the sum of our moments, that it's not so much that we're this continuum, but we're actually this amazing sort of pixelated image that is lots of moments, and that the most meaningful are often those that we have with one another. And I think as we head into Thanksgiving, I wanted to offer that as we all sort of gather moments together, and we will no doubt be gathering moments together. And we hope people, Safta, as you were quoting from the New York Times, will spend time with family talking about books and reasons why it's good to be together, as opposed to talking about things that we might not agree about.
No politics at the Thanksgiving table. Well, you can have politics at the table if you all agree. As in our families, probably that will happen.
I
But
feel
if
like
there are
having
some
politics in
people
our family
who
would be
come
more
to your
like
table
somebody
who are
decides
not
to
of that
be devil's
persuasion,
advocate.
don't do it.
And
Looking at me, I do not argue from a devil's advocate standpoint.
All right.
your dad.
And
And then we all end up arguing with that
Well,
one
less
person, then it gets really out of
contentious,
control.
Number
That's
And-
not
four,
even what
podcast.
happens.
and for next time, Safta,
Yeah.
we have a number of things that we might talk about. Is there a book that you would really like us to talk about next time we get together? So
But,
books to be
what do I-
decided on, and some of the topics that might be there is books by Tan Tuan Eng.
He's one that I really think, and the last one, oh yeah, he's gorgeous, but not for everybody. Not for everybody.
And maybe a book by Percival Everett. We might talk about that. Or
Tom Lake by Ann Patchett.
The Correspondent by Virginia Evans.
It's on my queue in the library. I'm 111 on the list.
Or the rare book that I loved that Safta started and wouldn't finish, like How to Hide an Empire by Daniel Immerwahr. So with that, we hope everybody has a very, very happy Thanksgiving.
Yes.
Sadie has brought a whole a stack of graphic novels that I guarantee Safta will never read.
Yeah.
Safta will never read them and she won't like them, but they're fun and I like them.
Well, good.
So, and they're called Hookie, and I'll put those on the website too. Hookie. So,
Happy Thanksgiving.
happy Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving.
Keep up with us at jewish-and.com, and we hope to see all of your comments, and we will address them if you write us via Substack or wherever else you find us. This has been Grumpy Jews Who Read plus grandchildren, and we look forward to seeing you all next time.
Have a good one.